Also True, A Native European Spirituality by Stephen McNallen. Chapter 19. The Blot or Blessing. A Gift Calls for a Gift. The blessing, or blot, is one of the two main rites of Asatru, the other being the sumbel, about which more in the next chapter. The blessing is governed by the principle of exchange. A gift calls for a gift. Giving gifts was a vital part of Germanic society. Friends were made by sharing even modest things. No great thing needs a man to give, oft little will purchase praise. With half a loaf and half-filled cup, a friend full fast I made. Havamal, verse 52. Once friendship was forged, it was continually renewed with gifts. Friends shall gladden each other with arms and garments, as each for himself can see. Gift-givers' friendships are longest found, if fair their fates may be. Havamal, verse 41. The giving of gifts, then, creates a bond between the giver and the receiver. The holy powers, as we discussed in Chapter 5, are our friends and our kin, so it is only right that we give them gifts to maintain the relationship and keep it fresh, just as we would with our human friends. Earlier, we listed the benefits we receive from ritual: inspiration, insight, a feeling of union with the gods and goddesses. The power to gradually transform our lives and evolve upward are a few of them. There are more tangible gifts from the gods as well. The luck that gets us through the tight situations, victory in our everyday battles, the answers to help life go more smoothly. But what about the holy powers? What do they need from us? The gods and goddesses are subject to the weavings of cause and effect by the deeds laid in Urd's well, just as we are. They face great challenges in the ordering of the world and its defense against the forces of chaos, and we have the ability to help them in these cosmic tasks. Our gifts to the gods is summed up in the words of one Blot as our might, our main, our troth. In other words, our honorable deeds, our spiritual power, or haminga, and our loyalty, or trueness, all contribute to the well-being of the gods and give them strength. We of Asatru share a mutual interdependence with the holy powers. We need them, and they need us. Notice how very different this is from the biblical religions, where humans have no input in the larger scheme of the universe. The gifts we give to the gods and goddesses, and the corresponding gifts that they give to us, bind us to each other in the rite of blessing. An outline of a blessing. Several essential parts make up the framework of a blessing. Other things can be added to these core elements depending on the circumstances and the creativity of the participants. What I will give here is the framework that I personally use. Preparation of the area. First, the place where the blessing will be done is ritually set apart from the rest of the universe and dedicated to the holy purpose at hand. Historically, this can be done by carrying flame around the perimeter, or barking it off with the physical objects such as stones, wooden rods, posts, or special ropes. Protective gestures, often employing the symbolism of Thor's hammer, have been used in modern times to accomplish this end. If this place has been used for blessing over a period of time by the group, and especially if it is set off by some physical boundary such as a ring of stones, preparation of the area may consist of a gesture and a few words to renew this apartness in the minds of those attending. Calling of the holy powers. Next, the god or goddess with whom we wish to communicate is asked to be with the participants. This is done by calling them by name, as well as their nicknames as is found in the Eddas. Ideally, this calling should be in verse form, but rousing prose is perfectly acceptable. It should emotionally evoke an image of the god or goddess in question and remind us of his or her key characteristics. Intent. Rituals should have clear and concise objectives. Just what is it we hope to accomplish? Whether the purpose of the blessing is to receive the general gifts of the gods, or whether the community has come together for a specific reason, that should be stated in simple language. Giving gifts to the gods. Since we cannot hand the holy powers our might, our main, our troth, in the same way you pass a plate of food to a friend, we give symbolic gifts that represent the intangible ones we give the gods on a continual basis, and which we pledge to keep giving in the future. And also true that physical representation of our invisible gift is very often a horn of mead. Holding it afloat, the Gothi or Githia, priest or priestess respectively, offers it to the deity to whom the bloat is dedicated. Then the mead in the horn is poured into a blessing bowl which will later be emptied on the ground. If the blessing is done outdoors, the mead can be poured directly onto the earth. So why do we use mead? Although other things can be used to represent our gifts, mead is particularly appropriate. Long ago, when our ancestors lived in a society based on agriculture and animal husbandry, a beast would be killed for the communal feast. The animal was dedicated to the gods, and its blood was sprinkled on the altar stones and on the assembled people using an evergreen sprig. The idea was that blood carried the divine power, which can be transmitted to the worshippers by the act of sprinkling, as well as by consuming the flesh of the animal during the ritual meal. Today, most of us buy our meat wrapped in styrofoam and plastic at the local supermarket. We don't slaughter animals for the sacred feast, so a substitute is needed. Mead, or honey wine, is the ideal choice. Both blood and mead are in some sense alive, the one from being the symbolic life of an animal, and the other from fermentation. Additionally, mead figures prominently in our lore. Odin went on a quest for the magical mead that gave ecstasy and expanded consciousness, and mead is the drink of the heroes in Valhalla. Finally, the sharing of an alcoholic drink is universally seen as an act of friendship and hospitality. In short, mead is the perfect substitute for the blood used in the old sacrifice. Receiving the gifts of the holy powers. A gift demands another one in return, so now the gods give us their gifts. Again, mead is the medium. A second horn is filled with the liquid and held aloft. The participants ask the holy powers to pour their blessings into it, and that it may be shared among the people, and thus give them the benefits they seek.
The most obvious way of sharing the empowered mead with the participants is for the Gothi or Githia to carry it around the circle, offering a drink to each individual. If there is any question of contagion, the mead may be poured from the large drinking horn into a smaller horn or a cup, not paper or plastic, held by the person receiving it. Those who do not drink alcohol have the option of the Gothi or Githia dipping a finger into the mead and placing a drop on their foreheads. When all have taken the mead, any remaining in the horn is poured onto the ground as an offering to the landwights. Sometimes, particularly if many people are involved, passing the horn may prove cumbersome. One problem is the difficulty of maintaining an intense ritual state for the time that the horn is being carried around. In this case, the mead may be poured from a drinking horn into a bowl, the evergreen sprig dipped in the mead, and the mead sprinkled on the participants. One attraction of this method is that it imitates the ancient practice of sprinkling the blood of the sacrifice. Afterward, the leftover mead is poured onto the ground as an offering to the landwights. Some is also poured at the base of the tree from which the evergreen was cut, and the branch used in the blessing is placed there as well. Closing. The holy powers are invited to linger with our humankin and to enjoy the feasting and companionship of all present. They are asked, when they wend their way to heavenly hearths, to take with them the love of their worshippers here in this world. This, then, is the framework of a blessing. To this outline may be added readings from the lore, songs, dramatic skits, or other features to help set the mood, establish communion with the holy powers, or in any other way to accomplish the intent of the blessing. When are blessings done? The answer is any time they are needed or wanted. As a minimum, blessings are given when we celebrate the turning of the seasons. Some individuals and groups like to offer blessings at the full moon. Others like them even more often. Blessings usually involve a number of people, a local kindred or a congregation of Asatruer, a family, or a group of friends. However, they can be given by lone individuals as well. The blessing, however, is not the only major ritual in Asatru. There is another rite of great importance, in which we draw might from the past, from the well of Erd itself, and immerse ourselves in it so that we can use that might to work our will in the present. We will now turn our attention to the Sumbul.